All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, this is probably going to be a pretty mediocre video, even though this is a top-notch topic, top-notch. But, you know how I said I don't like, or I don't shoot videos twice? Well, I just filmed this entire video, and then right as I was turning off the camera, I realized, oh, the sound thing's not working. Did I turn on the microphone? I didn't turn on the goddamn microphone. So the microphone wasn't on the whole entire video. So I did literally like a 15, 16, 17-minute video just talking for no reason, just yippity yip yip. So anyway, if I'm able to make this entertaining again, we're talking about rare talent. Anyway, all right, so we are going to talk about Khabib coming back because Khabib just told us I told everybody he's coming back because Khabib is a lot of things, but a cock tease to his fans is not one of them. That I can promise you. He is not going to tease his fans the way that he would have been if he said what he said on Twitter and then wasn't coming back. He's coming back, okay? He is coming back, son. For those of you who didn't see that, he said, "See you soon, Dana," on Twitter, okay? He's not cruel, okay? He's not going to be mean to his fans and pretend like he's coming back. If he's not coming back, he's coming back. But who's he going to fight? There's only 3 fights that make sense. So we're going to talk about him, GSP, Conor, or Tony, okay? And all of them make sense for different reasons. Only 2 of them make sense for his legacy, though, okay? I'm going to try to hit, this is a great video I filmed, too, and I'm going to have to try to hit all the same points. You know, I don't really, like, write the stuff. I don't write them out at all. But anyway, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Thank you guys all very, very much for your continued support. If you can like the video, I will love you forever. Comment, too. Thank you, guys. I mean, my comment to views ratio is unreal, okay? I just want to actually throw this out there real quick, okay, before I get into this. So I've been doing research on video analytics and like what you're aiming for if you're a YouTube creator. And no joke, what you're aiming for if you're a successful channel is 5 comments per 1,000 views. Okay? 5 per 1,000 views. And I was like, what? Like my analytics on that and then plus like likes and stuff, like I'm especially on comments, like you guys are engaged at a level that is literally like 15 to 20 times what the you know, what like a traditional YouTube channel is aiming for. So thank you guys for that very, very much because it makes it fun to do this. I get to read the comments, and I read all the comments, by the way, for the most part. And you know, it just makes it fun because like look at this comment section compared to other channels' comment sections. Now, maybe as this gets bigger, it'll turn into a clown show, but right now we got a pretty strong group, and I am very happy about that, and I appreciate the support. Anyway, so, oh, right, Khabib. So here's the deal. So Khabib said he's coming back, right? Basically, he says, "Hey, Dana, see you soon." So I want to take you back to when I did the live video the other night, right? So I did the live video, and Mix Molly commented in there about Khabib coming back. And he pointed something out that, you know, I mean, the guy he's a poet. Like he's a human poet. Like the very first time that I talked to him, see, this video is already completely different. The very first time that I like spoke to him, right? Like where we talked, I was so fucking excited, man. Like I'd watch for the most part, I'd watched like all of his videos. Like I was his biggest fan, and I'm talking to him on the phone. I was like, I can't fucking believe I'm talking to this guy. And we were talking about what videos he had on deck, and he was talking about how a lot of people wanted him to do the next Tyson Fury video. And he was saying, and I was listening to him talk about it, and he was saying there's nothing left for him to do with that. Like the story has played itself out. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself initially, I'm like, Tyson Fury just came back and he beat Deontay Wilder. Like you haven't covered that part yet, right? Like you haven't covered that. Like, you know, if you watch by the way, if you haven't seen Mix Molly's Tyson Fury videos, he has 2. Get on it, man. But he covered up to when he got up and it was a draw, right? So to a normal kind of like regular thinker, the way that people look at it, obviously, you know, him coming back and then beating Wilder is part of the narrative, right? It's not for Mix Molly. It's not part of the narrative for him at all. Okay, the narrative is about where Tyson Fury was as a human being. He was in the gutter, like done, like depressed, finished, drinking, doing blow, like had given up on life, like just an empty black hole was how he saw the world. And then he picked himself up and he built himself back up and he trained and he became a winner again. He got all the way back up to, you know, and you know, he almost got knocked out, got himself back up. Like the way that Mix Molly sees it is the human battle that he has with himself, right? So coming back and beating Deontay Wilder is irrelevant because he's already at the place, like the battle was with himself and he had already won that battle. So like from the grand narrative perspective, coming back and beating Deontay Wilder is irrelevant, you know? And I mean, I'm hearing myself say it, and I still think that him beating Deontay Wilder matters, but I do completely understand why it doesn't matter the way Mixed Molly looks at it. You know, he's like, there's nothing I can do with that. I'm like, man. And the same thing with the Francis Ngannou series, right? So the Francis Ngannou series, when we were talking about that too, and I think a different time, and I was like, you know, when he wins the championship, man, I was like, gosh, like, look, you know, the parallels between that and him trying to get over the ocean 11 times and losing, and then keeping like trying over and over and over until he finally got to France, right? And he's like, like to him, Francis already won. He made it, right? Like he made it. He's a superstar in the UFC. He came back home. You know, the hero's journey is complete. He came back home and shared what he had with with where he came from in Cameroon. So like him winning him coming back and beating Stipe is irrelevant. He already won, and that is true actually, as it relates to Francis's journey. Like he made it, right? From where he came from in a sand mine. You know, when he's in his mid-20s, he decides he wants to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Ludicrous. I mean, an utterly impossible dream. Impossible, right? I mean, for anybody else. But still, even for him, impossible. And look where he is, right? So, understanding how Mixed Molly thinks, and then having him say what he said about Khabib in the live chat. Anytime he says anything, I always just really think about it real hard, because I'm like, okay, so he doesn't make, like, he doesn't ever say anything that's unprofound, you know? Like, he's not a guy that just talks to fucking talk. Like, he's a deep thinker, and he's like a student of the human experience. And that's why I love this sport so much. So anytime he says anything, I always listen. And he said, don't you think that if Khabib stays retired, it's a perfect career? And I thought about that. And, you know, I had a live video on, so I'm still trying to talk to everybody, and I'm kind of simultaneously thinking about it. And he's right. He is right. You know, like Khabib, he became the undisputed champion, and then his father died, and then he has one more fight under the most grim circumstances. He lost his father. It's in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, right? He's grieving. He's got a very tough opponent, probably his toughest opponent ever. And he goes out and has the most heroic performance of his career, of maybe anyone's career, right? And demonstrates he's the best to ever do it at lightweight, ever, without a doubt. And if he walked away, that is a perfect career. And it's a very poetic ending, you know? And so I think the point he's making is like, what fight could you add on top that would make his legacy better? And I can be honest and say, I'm being selfish. I'm not thinking about his legacy. I just want to see him fight. And I'm not saying that like it didn't sound right the way that I just said that, right? Like I'm just being honest that I'm selfishly hoping he fights because I want to see him fight. But his legacy is not my short-term goal, even though in the long term, I would love to see his legacy be perfect, right? Because there aren't very many people that even have the opportunity for that. As a matter of fact, there's no one else who has that opportunity. No one has the opportunity to have a perfect legacy. Perfect. Okay, John Jones could go win the heavyweight championship, still pissed hot, right? People could say he's the GOAT, but there's a difference between being the GOAT and perfection. Perfection. And Khabib currently has perfection. It could only go. There's only two fights that make sense in that context, right? So he's got three possible fights: GSP, Tony, Conor, right? And only two of those fights make sense to get him to 30-0 and have that be the cherry on top of his career. And unfortunately, neither of them is the Conor fight, even though I think that's probably the one we're going to see, right? So think about it like this, right? So if it was GSP, now GSP is not the one that I think is the best, right? I think the Tony one is the best. And hear me out, okay? So second place would be the GSP fight, right? And GSP, he's the potential living GOAT. He's still at fight age. It's a super fight. Khabib drops the belt. They fight at a catch weight. So it's a thing that Khabib does where he goes outside of his weight class. He fights the best to ever do it. He wins, boom, 30-0 and retires. that, I mean, that certainly you could say, like, he's the GOAT now because he beat GSP, right? Like, there's an argument there. But of course, GSP, maybe not his prime self, but whatever. Like, that's a beautiful ending to his legacy. But the Tony fight, hear me out on this. The Tony fight that had been tried to get made 5 times and fell out every single time. If Tony goes out and he walks through Oliveira, like really puts it on Oliveira and wins impressively, and then Khabib finally fights Tony and it actually happens and he beats Tony and that's his 30-0, that's perfection. That means he fought every single person, all of them. Because right now, he never fought Tony, man. He never fought Tony. And I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I do believe Khabib will beat Tony. I absolutely believe that. But he hasn't, right? So that is, in my opinion, the fight that had fallen out 5 times. And again, Tony's going to have to walk through Oliveira to make it an interesting fight. He needs to win that fight decisively. But if he does, and they set that up with Khabib, I think that's the best possible scenario for his legacy. But what I think is going to happen is I think that Conor's going to walk through Dustin, and Dana is going to set up the Khabib fight immediately afterwards. And I think he's buttering him up. He's like, look, if Conor, he's going to do it in a way where he's talking to Khabib as if Khabib is in control of this situation. He's going to make him feel like he's in control. But Dana's driving towards that Conor rematch. I would bet my life on it. But here's the thing. If Conor obliterates Dustin, given Dustin's track record the last 5-6 fights, if he obliterates him, okay, people are going to get in a place where they believe it's a different Conor now. This is a different Conor. Like, there's not going to be a bunch of people who are like, he has no chance. If he obliterates Dustin, they're going to say there's going to be a narrative where Conor can win. I mean, there just is. Now, I personally think Khabib will win. I mean, I just don't think there's nothing. You watch that first fight, and it's not the fact that Khabib was able to get Conor to the ground that really convinces me that Conor's going to have an incredibly tough time to win. It's not that he was able to get him to the ground. It's how ineffective he rendered Conor on his feet. Like, no one else has ever been able to do that. No one. On the feet, Conor obliterates him, And even like the Chad Mendes fight where he was getting taken down, when they had exchanges, he was landing on Chad Mendes, right? He would land, then Chad would, take him down, whatever. Like, he didn't land anything heavy on Khabib at all. First round, second round, third round, fourth round. I mean, he landed a couple shots in the third round, nothing major. That's incredible, man. Like, his footwork, his distance control, all of that stuff. Because where people get in trouble with Conor is Conor has the best counter cross maybe ever, right? Like, literally, like, ever. He's going to make you miss by a millimeter, and he's coming back right over the top, I mean, with just surgical accuracy. And Khabib just never gave him that opportunity. He just never gave him the opportunity to hit him with a counter left at all. Like, it was like he clearly recognized that was his number one weapon. He just made him. I can't get to a place where, like, what's Conor going to do? What's he going to do that's different enough? I mean, Khabib's never even been hurt, really. What's Conor going to do? It just doesn't, what's he going to do? So, like, again, that's the fight I want to see. That's the fight I want to see because I love the spectacle, and I think it would be amazing. And, I can't get myself to a place where I hope Conor wins anymore, though. I really can't. Like, that's how big of a shift there's been in me, not against Conor, but in favor of Khabib in general. Like, they're my 2 favorite fighters. They really are. And so when it comes to their I can't get myself to a place where I can root for Khabib to go 29-1 and have his one loss be his last fight against Conor. I can't get there. I just can't do it. If Conor loses, who fucking cares? He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't really care. Like, with Khabib, it would really matter to him. It would really fucking matter to him. Where, like, Conor, he'd be upset and then he'd be fine. It wouldn't, like, define his life. And, maybe it wouldn't define Khabib's, but maybe it would. So I can't get myself to a place where I would root for Conor to win. So but I don't think he will anyway. So that's that. Those are the 3 fights. That's who I think it's going to be. Now let me tell you a little story time from last night. So I took my daughter to her first jiu-jitsu class. Well, not her first jiu-jitsu class at Gracie Fighter, her second ever jiu-jitsu class. Okay. So I took her to one at 10th Planet maybe a year ago, something like that. And she never went back because it was like the kids were like playing around, you know, like it wasn't like serious there, you know, like they were just kind of like, you know, it looked like something to like, you know, oh, let's get some energy out for the kids. You know, the guy who's training them is a legit fighter. But the way that they taught the class, I was just like, this is not worth the money or the time. Like, it's just not, right? But I did class at Gracie Fighter, which is obviously really serious and really like if people are belted at a Gracie, especially this is a Caesar Gracie. I hung out with Caesar Gracie last night for 2 hours. Like Caesar Gracie physically was there, and I was rapping out with him and his wife for 2 hours about California and how awesome it is. I was trying to convince him to move to Austin. I was like, dude, all the meathead fucks that look like me are all moving there, dude. You open a school there, and all their schools are on the coast. They're all like East Coast and then California. Like there's like nothing in between, at least according to him, or according to his wife last night. But anyway, but anyway, so I told Giselle, right? I was like, listen, oh, I'm sorry, let me rewind. So I took class there. It was obviously really serious. Then one time I destroyed my wrist on my skateboard, right? So I didn't go back. Like it was like, whatever. So recently I was going to pick up sushi at the place next door, right? And I just walked in there and they were doing a kids class and they're training killers there. Like they treat the kids like adults and they're training fucking killers there. Like there are kids that are 10 years old that are doing inverted triangles and shit, you know? I was like, whoa. And the kids are going really hard. Like they're like rolling hard. They're sparring, they're rolling hard. And I was like, and like, you know, one kid did this thing and he's like, oh, your knee hurts. He's like, pfft. And he just punked this kid so hard in front of their parent. I was like, fuck yes. This is what I'm talking about. So I brought him in. I told Giselle, I was like, listen, Giselle, don't fucking act like I know I've showed you how to do an arm bar. I know I've showed you how to do a triangle. Don't go in there and act like you know what the fuck you're doing. Don't tell him that you know jiu-jitsu. Don't do it. Because like, you know, around the house, he's like, I'm like, this is not like that. Like, this is not that, okay? This is where you go to get trained for real. Anything I taught you, forget about it, okay? Because I'm probably teaching you the wrong shit anyway. So like, go in there, blank slate, don't tell him you know anything. She's like, okay. So she went in there super nervous, right? But somehow, apparently she snuck in telling them that she knows how to do an arm bar because she had this kid in a full mount and I was sitting there talking to Caesar and the instructor, this guy Cameron, badass. He goes, hey Giselle, I thought you know how to do an arm bar. And she looked at him, she's like, what? And he's like, let's see your arm bar. And Giselle looked and it was like as if it like clicked in her mind, like, oh, that's allowed? And she grabbed the girl's arm and whoosh. I was like, right in front of Caesar Gracie. And he was like, that's your daughter? I was like, yeah. He's like, first class? I was like, first class? He's like, oh. I was like, yes. Yes. Yes, Giselle. And then right after that, she comes walking over when they put him on the line. She's like, Daddy, can we come here every night? I was like, you are the apple of my eye tonight, sweetheart. Excellent question. Absolutely you can. She's so freakishly flexible too. She's going to be able to, dude, she's going to be so fucking good. It's going to be unreal. And she's a roughneck little kid. Like when you see your kid fight for the first time, you get to see what they're made out of. Because you don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like wrestling around with their sisters or their brothers, whatever, like around the house, that's different than like actually fighting, you know, like rolling, sparring with a stranger. You know, you could just see what they're made out of. You could see if a person that you could see when they're that young, you know, like I'm taking Genevieve there tonight. She's 4, you know, but Giselle, she's 8. And you can already see it's like, oh, she's going to go full throttle. Like she's not going to take shit from anyone. She's not going to let, like, you know, she'll lose, of course, but not because she let them win. You know what I mean? Like not because she let people fuck with her. Like she's going to fight hard. Very impressive. Very impressive. Yeah. She gets that from both sides. Gabrielle, nice girl, fighter. I watched her pick up a pit bull with one hand by its fucking, I don't even know how the hell she did it. She grabbed it like underneath its jaw and picked it up with one arm because it had attacked her dog. Like it was chasing around her Yorkshire Terrier, and I froze. I'm gonna be honest. Like so it was chasing, and then it kind of clamped down on the dog, and I was right there too. And in my mind, I was still processing. Like I was like, should I kick it in the rib? Like as I was still, I'm like, I'm gonna kick it in the ribs and try to break its ribs like that. So by the time I thought I'm going to go break its ribs. And then I started to take a step. She had grabbed this pit bull underneath its jaw and lifted it up and was holding it with one hand. She's like, grab Romeo. And I was like, look at you, you tiny little thing. She's got some fighter in her for sure. But anyway, so that's that. So if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Thank you guys very, very much.